You know how when you play a game or get really into a story, you pick a character, the rebel, the mage, the healer. We're always drawn to one, and they're usually a reflection of who we are, or maybe who we wish we could be. But what if those choices could be more than just a mirror? What if they could actually be a tool? No, really, think about that for a second. What if the character you step into on screen wasn't just about escaping your reality, but about actively rewriting it? What if it could help you mend the parts of yourself that feel a little broken? Well, that's the incredibly powerful idea we're going to dig into today. So here's the thing. Right now, most of our digital avatars, the heroes and tricksters we see everywhere, they're pretty much all pulled from a very small, very familiar deck of cards. We're talking about the classic Western archetypes, and yeah, they're powerful symbols, but they can also be kind of passive. A lot of these old models come from static ideas like Jung's hero or shadow. They act more like symbols that we're supposed to interpret rather than being active agents that actually get things done. They're often stuck in this very Western, very linear idea of progress, and they are totally missing a world of different, global perspectives on what it really means to heal and have agency. Okay, so how do we get past those limits? Well, this is where it gets really, really cool. The idea here is a massive paradigm shift. We need to move away from focusing on what a character is and start focusing on what a character does. So instead of a static archetype, like the rebel, which is just a label, right? We get a dynamic functional exemplar, something like an agent of cognitive restructuring. See the difference? That's not a symbol, that's a job description. It's an active agent that comes with a specific set of tools for changing the world. And that toolkit has a name, Techne. It's an ancient Greek word for a craft, a skill, an art. It's the hands-on, practical technique that these new kinds of avatars use to actually alter reality, whether that's your internal world or the one around you. It's the how. And this quote from the source material just nails it. They are not mere symbols. They are technicians of the sacred. I love that. They're not just concepts to think about. They are practitioners. They have a craft. They actually get their hands dirty. So here's the crucial point. Once we start looking beyond the usual myths, we find this incredible global toolkit full of these technicians. So let's start with the ones who hack and mend reality, often by breaking all the rules. So meet Anansi. He's the spider trickster from the Akan and Ashanti peoples of Ghana. Now, during the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade, Anansi's stories became way more than just entertainment. For the African diaspora, they were basically manuals for psychological resistance and flat-out survival. Anansi's Techne isn't about brute force, it's psychological operations. So to capture all the world's stories from the powerful sky god, he had to bring back these 4 impossible creatures. He didn't fight them. He tricked a swarm of hornets into a gourd by faking a rainstorm. He played on a python's ego to get him to lie down straight against a stick so he could be tied up. He uses his wit to completely reframe reality and find the loopholes in otherwise oppressive systems. Now, this next idea is fascinating because some of these figures teach us that falling apart, that failing, can actually be an incredibly creative act. I mean, look at this. In Siberia, you've got Koltquats, this creator buffoon who literally sneezed mountains into existence. And in the Andes, there's a story about a fox who goes to a party in the heavens, gets too greedy, and falls back to earth, bursting open. But his fall scatters the seeds for every food crop across the land. These stories teach us that sometimes total disintegration is the very mechanism for new growth. Okay, let's switch gears to another function, the weaver. And this isn't about being trapped by fate. This is about mending, about taking all the fragmented pieces of our lives and weaving them back into something whole. And a major figure here is Spider Grandmother from Hopi and Navajo traditions. Spider Grandmother taught the Navajo people how to weave, but she also taught them about the spirit line. This is a deliberate imperfection. A single thread left intentionally loose in the border of a rug. Why would you do that? To allow the weaver's spirit to escape. It's such a profound lesson for therapy, isn't it? Perfection is a trap. We have to always leave ourselves an opening to move, to change, and to grow. So, we've seen avatars that can reframe reality and repair it. Next up are the exemplars who give us structure for our memories and tools to transform ourselves. These are the architects and the mapmakers of the mind. In the Incan Empire, history wasn't written down in books, it was knotted into strings. And the people who did this were the Quipucayamayak, the legendary keepers of the knots. They were the librarians, the accountants, and the historians for an entire civilization, all rolled into one. Using these knotted strings called quipu, they encoded everything from census data to their most sacred histories. And during the colonial era, when their culture was being systematically destroyed, their job became even more critical. As the source material puts it, they stood as the barrier between memory and oblivion. Now, their technique offers an incredible model for therapy. Imagine being able to externalize a memory, turn it into a physical, tactile object. It becomes something you can handle, something you can organize without having to dive back in and relive it. It transforms trauma from this overwhelming feeling into a set of data you can sort, store, and manage. So we've gone from managing memory with our hands to healing with our entire body. Let's meet Hia'aka, the younger sister of the famous Hawaiian volcano goddess Pele. So while Pele is all about that destructive lava flow, Hia'aka is the lush green forest that grows back on the cooled rock. She's the patron of hula, and her techne is what's called somatic resurrection. She literally brought her sister's lover back from the dead, not with some magic spell, but by using continuous chanting, prayer, and movement to gather up his scattered spirit and put it back in his body. She teaches that we can use rhythm and voice and our own bodies to bring the dead parts of ourselves back to life. So, after all that, what does it all add up to? Well, when you look across all of these different cultures, you don't just get a collection of cool stories, you get a comprehensive global matrix of very practical tools for psychological change. We can actually organize these technicians into 4 big clusters. You have the rebel or the trickster, who uses wit and language for reframing a situation. You have the weaver, who uses thread and knots for repair and integration. You have the architect, who uses maps and codes for creating orientation in chaos. And finally, the shapeshifter, who uses dance and rhythm for embodiment. Each one gives us a different tool for a different kind of psychological work. And this has massive implications for designing things, like therapeutic games. Imagine, instead of generic superpowers, you give avatars a practical techne, a craft. Instead of punishing players for failure, you make it generative, like the fox's fall. You could allow users to create tangible representations of their memories, like a digital quipu. And you have to remember that for so many of these figures, their power only works within a community. Healing is often a team sport. So this leaves us with one final question. We've looked at this amazing global toolkit, but every culture, every family has its own technicians of the sacred, its own weavers, tricksters, and mapmakers. So the question for you is, what tools from your own history, from your own heritage, could help you rewrite your story?